Step close to the hearthfire, traveler, and lock your doors. Tonight, we unravel the forbidden seals. For months, we have documented the whispered terrors that linger in the shadows of the old forests, the rusted bridges, and the quiet, empty rooms. 8 weeks of exploration, compiled into one single grimoire of audio shadows. Whether you are here to study, to find solace in the dark, or to let these legends guide you into a deep, unsettling sleep, let yourself drift. Below the ancient canopy and deep in the black waters, the skinwalkers, the mimics, and the dog-headed guardians await your arrival. Do not look at the windows. Do not answer if they call your name. The Apocryphal Bestiary begins. Now. Have you ever felt the woods descend into a stagnant, unnatural hush? Not merely quiet, but dead. The birds cease their carols. The insects fall silent, and the very wind refuses to stir the leaves. In these moments, creation itself holds its breath, for it recognizes a predator. Not the beast of claw and fang, not bear nor wolf, but something that drapes itself in stolen hides, a thing that calls to you with the spectral resonance of your mother, your child, or your closest kin. Today, we tread into the lightless depths of American folklore. The Skinwalkers. They are already among us, and they are weaving our likeness into their nightmare. To grasp the magnitude of this malevolence, one must unearth the primordial roots. Among the Navajo, they are whispered of as the Yi, Naldi, Elohoshi, he who crawls upon all fours. These are no mere phantoms. They are sorcerers who have bartered their humanity for profane power. To ascend as a skinwalker, one must commit an act of ultimate desecration. The extinguishing of their own kin's life. Only through this blood debt do they gain the power to warp their flesh. Across the digital archives of Reddit, thousands of testimonies echo. Encounters in the desolate reservations, shadows lurking on the fringes of civilization. Yet, their mimicry is flawed. Their eyes retain a human luminescence, a glint of the soul they discarded. And heed this warning. Never utter their name in the dark, for they have ears in the shadows, and they answer the call of the curious. How does one identify the aberration? Observe the subtleties. Their movements are a jagged defiance of nature, to swift, to spasmodic. Their limbs stretch into grotesque lengths, joints snapping in directions no mortal frame should endure. But their primary instrument of ruin is the voice. They are masters of hollow mimicry, capable of echoing any sound they have ever harvested. Yet, there is always a fracture in the illusion, the uncanny Feli, a voice that rings with a hollow resonance or repeats a phrase like a broken incantation, devoid of meaning. They are merely baiting the hook with your own grief. If you hear a plea for salvation where no soul should dwell, do not linger. Flee. This chronicle hails from the year 2014 in the desolate wastes of New Mexico. 2 hunters, Mark and Steve, were traversing the midnight roads. Suddenly, Steve glimpsed a massive hound pacing their vehicle running upright upon its hind legs. It matched their speed, 80 miles an hour, with a human visage stretched taut over a lupin's skull. It was grinning. When they reached the sanctuary of their home, Mark heard Steve's voice emanating from the kitchen, pleading for aid with the gear. Mark rose to answer, but a missive arrived on his device from the real Steve. Brother, I just arrived. Barricade every entrance. I saw it at your gate. The voice in the kitchen persisted. Mark, help me. The cadence was decaying into a guttural, predatory snarl. Should you find yourself ensnared in their gaze, your prospects are grim. First decree, never meet their eyes. To logesis is to invite the contagion of their curse. Second decree, maintain a tomb-like silence. To answer is to acknowledge the nightmare, granting it passage into your reality. Third decree, do not attempt to outrun them on foot. They possess a speed that mocks mortal exertion. Your only sanctuary is the radiance of light. They loathe the essence of the white ash, though the woods offer no such mercy. Your only weapon is a heart of stone. Do not let them feast upon your trepidation. The Skinwalker sats its hunger on the scent of your fear. The world is teeming with enigmas that defy your understanding. The next time you hear a familiar cadence drifting from the abyss, pause before you offer a reply. Have you encountered such a hollow echo? Share your chronicles in the depths below. Subscribe to this archive, for here we do not flinch from the gaze of the void. Rest well, if sleep still finds you. Do you believe the history of mankind is a straight line? That we have always stood alone atop the food chain? Look upon the maps of the 12th century, where the reign of kings ends and the unknown begins. Our ancestors did not merely draw monsters. They drew at them the Cynocephali, men with the bodies of athletes and the heads of hounds. This is no idle whim of a bored monk. It is a chronicle of a coexistence we were forced to forget. Today, we breach the archives of the Apocryphal Bestiary to uncover. Where did an entire race vanish? The first whispers lead us back to the 4th century before Christ. Ctesias, personal physician to the Persian king, speaks of them in India. He describes a nation 120,000 strong. They do not bay. They speak through signs and low, guttural rumbles. Pliny the Elder, the father of European science, classifies them not as demons, but as a biological species. Alexander the Great, in his letters to Aristotle, recounts capturing 30 of these beings. They were fierce warriors, possessed of a grim sense of honor. This is no hallucination. This is a statement of fact. Why did hundreds of independent sources, over 2 millennia, describe the same phenotypical anomaly? But the most chilling proof is buried in the very heart of Christendom's San Christopher. We are accustomed to seeing him as a giant, carrying a child upon his shoulder, but delve into the elder canons. Christopher Lycocephalus, the dog-headed, legend claims he hailed from the race of Cynocephali, captured in Scythia and baptized. The church spent centuries warring with this image. The Synod of 1722 officially banished icons of Christopher with a beast's head. Why? Because to acknowledge him is to acknowledge that monsters possess a soul, that they are no accident of nature, but a part of the divine design. That became inconvenient. Marco Polo, in his wanderings, describes them across the islands of the Indian Ocean. He emphasizes, they are traders. They bought her spices for iron. Do you grasp the depth of the paradox? Wild beasts do not forge commercial unions. The Cynocephali were a cog in the global economy. They had their cities, their laws, and their gods. In antiquity, they were called aliens, but never myths. They were as tangible as the Persians or the Gauls. What then transpired during the Renaissance? Why did the enlightened world suddenly decree that they never existed? The disappearance of the Cynocephali mirrored the dawn of colonial expansion. To seize the world, man had to become the sole master of reason. Any other sentient race was a threat to our exceptionalism. We did not merely slaughter them physically, we committed an act of intellectual genocide. We branded them a fable, a hallucination of unlearned sailors. But bones do not lie. In the archives of the Vatican and the vaults of the British Museum, there remain objects never shown to tourists. Skeletons whose skulls cannot be mistaken for any other. History is not what happened. It is what remains. After the census are finished, the Cynocephali did not vanish without a trace. They remain in our nightmares, in our sanctuaries, and in the silence that falls when you look upon an ancient map. We are apocryphal. We are here to reclaim what was stolen from memory. Subscribe if you are bold enough to see the world without filters. Remember, truth has teeth. I will see you in the next chapter of the Bestiary. Have you ever wondered why we fear the dark? It is not merely the absence of light. It is a primal, reflexive dread of what might be lurking within that void. Evolution is a brutal and pragmatic sculptor. It carves no waste. We have no wings because we were not meant to fly. We have no claws because we learned to forge steel. Every instinct, every shiver upon your skin is a lesson written in the blood of billions who did not survive to see the dawn. But there is one specific fear that defies explanation. The terror of something that looks almost human. When you see a silent mannequin in a lightless room or a dust-covered doll upon an attic shelf, your heart stops. Why? A doll cannot bite. A mannequin cannot strike. Yet your ancient brain screams a singular command. Run. They call this the uncanny valley. I call it a ghost in our genetic code. If predators in the wild mimic the forest floor to vanish, if deep-sea horrors use lights to conjure fake hope, then who is hunting our ancestors? Who used our own faces as a mask? Today, we tear that mask away. The uncanny valley was named decades ago, but the truth it reveals is eternal. The more a construct resembles a person, the more we like it, until it becomes nearly perfect. Then, suddenly, our empathy collapses into pure, cold terror. But forget the science. What do you truly feel? You see a face? The eyes are present. The smile is wide, yet something clicks deep within your psyche. Your brain detects the presence of non-life. That face appears tight, like skin stretched over a hollow drum. The eyes do not reflect life. They only consume the light. They say this is a guard against the dead, but a corpse is static. This is far worse. This is something that moves with the rhythm of the living, yet remains hollow inside. Your brain is the most sophisticated lie detector in existence. You read 1,000 micro-movements every second, and when they are wrong, when that smile stays a heartbeat too long, you understand. This is not a person. This is a predator that invested its entire history into one skill, the art of becoming us, so that we would open the door, so that we would let it reach our children. In the silent reaches of the great northern woods, where the fog never truly surrenders, the old woodsman whispered of the hide-behind. It sounds like a simple campfire tale, a way to sharpen the nerves of the young, but it is fueled by a terrifying, dark logic. The hide-behind never engages in open combat. It possesses no jagged claws, no sharpened fangs. Its primary weapon is your own line of sight. It moves to the exact rhythm of your heartbeat. It freezes the very moment you attempt to turn around. It becomes the shadow of the tree you just stepped past. It does not simply hide. It mirrors the world until it is the same as reality. But the myths run deeper. The changelings of the old world, the skinwalkers of the new, they all share a singular trait. They steal human form. They do not merely eat the flesh. They swallow the identity. Imagine sitting by a fire with a friend you have known for a decade. You know the sound of their laugh, but suddenly you notice a change. Their laughter is a bit too high. Their stories are merely repeated phrases. In that moment, you realize your friend stayed out there in the dark, and what is sitting across from you has merely filled the empty space it cannot allow. It can only copy the movements of love. The hide-behind is not behind the tree. It is behind the face of the person you trust most. Now, look into the depth of the abyss. Why did we survive while they vanished? A darker theorist suggests that long ago, at the dawn of history, there existed another branch of humanity. Let us call them Homo mimes. The mimics. They raised no monuments. They tamed no fire. Why would they, when they could simply walk into a cave, take the shape of the leader, and take everything for themselves? They were the ultimate parasites. But a parasite has one fatal weakness. It can never truly become the original. Our ancestors fought a war that we have chosen to forget. We turned it into nursery rhymes and stories of monsters under the bed. But it was a great cleansing. We survived only because we evolved a supernatural sensitivity to the fraud. We learned to hate the almost human more than the most ravenous beast. Our terror of the uncanny valley is a war scar. It is the genetic memory of our victory over the perfect imposter. Every time you feel an unexplained dread looking at a face, that is your blood screaming at you. That is the voice of a million grandfathers who, in that same moment, grabbed their axes and struck first. We do not fear the dead. We fear the things that are almost alive. The battle for the human face was won by us. Or so we would like to believe. They are still here. Evolution does not surrender that easily. The mimics simply optimized. They migrated from the deep woods into the digital expanse. They hide behind the filters of social media, behind the flawless faces generated by numbers, behind voices that sound just like our own. Next time you scroll and see a perfect face that feels wrong, do not ignore that instinct. When you are alone and you hear a familiar voice calling your name from another room, remember the lesson of your blood. Do not trust the shadow that does not match your stride. Do not trust the eyes that possess no spark of life. The Apocryphal Bestiary is not a history. It is a warning. Tell me in the comments, have you ever seen a face that made you freeze? Or heard a voice that was clearly not human? Subscribe if you are ready to venture deeper into the dark. And remember, as long as you feel that fear, you are still human. Keep your light close. Soon, it may be your only defense. Have you ever wondered why the night sky feels so empty? The ancients knew the truth. They remember a time when the heavens were not this silent abyss. Once, 7 sisters shone above us. 7 moons, whose silver flame turned night into day, stripping the darkness of its power. But darkness tolerates no rivals. It waits. In the deepest trenches of the ocean, where pressure turns bone to dust, and sunlight is but a legend, something has awakened. Not a god, nor a beast, but primordial hunger, clad in scales. Each of the 7 moons was created by the great god Bathila to light the path of mankind. The first moon gave wisdom. The second brought healing. The third blessed the fertile lands. But the 7th was the most divine. Her light was so pure that demons could not look at the sky without being blinded. Men knew no fear. They built civilizations under an eternal glow. But beauty is always a bait for monsters. From the shadows of the sea, Bakunawa watched. His eyes, large as lakes, filled not with wonder, but with a burning, terrible envy. He did not just want that light. He sought to be the light itself. Bakunawa did not merely swim from the sea. He rose against the very order of the world. Legends speak of a winged serpent whose wings could shroud the sun. His flight was silent. It created a void, a vacuum in the air. The first attack was sudden. The world grew darker as the first sister vanished. There was no blast, no scream, only a massive, bottomless maw closing around the silver sphere, swallowing the light whole. They say when Bakunawa consumed the first moon, his scales glowed for the first time. He tasted divinity, and that taste stripped away whatever was left of his mind. Second, third, fourth. Every night brought a new nightmare. The earth grew cold. The seas overflowed, lost without the moons to guide the tides. Bakunawa grew with every sister he took. His body stretched across the sky, becoming a living constellation of terror. The 5th and 6th moons fell in a single night. When only the last sister remained, the world fell into madness. Priests lit fires that gave no warmth. Warriors sharpened swords that could not reach the sky. Then the people understood. If they could not kill the serpent, they must terrify him. It was the loudest night in history. Bathala, the high god, was pulled from his sleep by the noise. He saw his creation near its end. Even a god could not simply erase Bakunawa. The serpent had grown too strong, fed by the light of 6 moons. Bathala cursed the beast, tearing away his wings and casting him into the dark waters forever. But the creature managed to bite the final moon. This is why we see eclipses today. It is not just a shadow. It is the jaws of the beast, trying to finish what he started eons ago. Why does this myth survive? Why do people still stand on their balconies during an eclipse and make noise? Because Bakunawa is not just a serpent. He's a symbol of entropy. The fear that the light at the end of the tunnel is not an exit, but a mouth. Historians find traces of Bakunawa even where his name is forgotten. In every fear of the deep, in every feeling that something is watching us from the black ocean, there is a piece of this ancient dread. Bakunawa sleeps, but he is not defeated. He waits for the hour when we become too quiet, when we forget how to strike the gongs, when we believe the dark is just the absence of light and not a hungry thing. Watch over the last moon. She is all that stands between us and the eternal night. This is but a fragment of the truth. The full chronicle of Bakunawa and the 7 moons waits in the deep. If you wish to hear the entire story of this hunger, show me your sign in the comments. I will open the pages that were meant to stay sealed forever. Now, the screen will go dark. Look at your reflection. Who do you see there, standing behind your shoulder? Have you ever wondered why the most terrifying stories begin with a simple knock? It is a steady rhythmic sound, 60 beats per minute, like a clock marking the end of your time. Outside stand children. They ask to enter. They claim they are cold, but their eyes, they are a void where light dies. Today, we reveal the legend of the black-eyed children. This is not just a ghost story. It is a shared nightmare reported across the globe. From the empty roads of Texas to the foggy streets of London, one detail remains constant. These entities always wait. They never enter without permission. Why is your doorstep a sacred barrier until you say the words, "Come in, let us gaze into the abyss of their empty sight"? Many believe it is just a prank, but for those who face them, reality was broken. Their skin is too pale. Their movements are like machines. Their voice sounds like a looping recording. They are not kids. They are something else, wearing a mask of innocence. Their goal is simple: your permission to let the darkness into your life. In ancient myths, the threshold is a sacred border. Beings like the black-eyed children follow an old law, the rule of free will. They cannot enter your space without your consent. It is a dark game. They use your pity to make you break your own protection. It is a mental attack disguised as a plea for help. Witnesses call it the loop of consent. The child may repeat the same phrase over and over. "We need to call home. It is cold. Let us in." But if you listen closely, their voices have no emotion. It is a machine-like replay of human speech. One crack in your will, and you are lost. Once you say yes, the mask falls away. This detail links them to the vampires of old legends. The need for an invitation is a fundamental law of their existence. Without your yes, they are only shadows at the door. But if you give in to fear, you hand them the keys to your reality. And the price of that invitation is higher than you can imagine. Brian Bethel's 1996 story was the first documented case of these entities. Late at night in Texas, he was in his car when 2 children approached. They did not ask for money. They just wanted to get inside. But Brian felt a primal, deep fear. When he looked at them, he saw its solid, coal black eyes, with no pupils or whites. It was the face of the abyss itself. Bethel described it as blackness that consumes light. As he started the car, one child flew into a rage. His voice changed, becoming deep and vibrating. He yelled, "You cannot leave until you let us in." Brian sped away, but the sense of being followed stayed with him for years. This story became the foundation of the modern legend. Bethel's case opened a dark door. Many similar meetings had happened before, but people were too afraid to speak. They feared for their sanity. Every story had one thing in common: a loss of control and a feeling of ancient evil under a teenage mask. Bethel was the first to describe those black eyes as a portal to pure horror. Meeting these beings leaves more than mental scars. Many witnesses reported sudden sickness, dizziness, and even nosebleeds. There are stories of pets dying days after these children approach the house. This suggests a powerful energy or sound waves they emit. Their very presence acts like a toxic wave to the living. Researchers call it the frequency of fear. These beings emit waves around 19 hertz. This is the resonant frequency of the human eye. It causes panic and visual tricks. Those who met them feel their space was stained. The house feels cursed, and fear lingers in the walls for weeks, like an invisible virus that cannot be washed away. But the worst part is how they alter your sense of time. Witnesses say a short talk at the door felt like hours, though only minutes passed. This shows their ability to control the human mind, putting it into a deep trance. You do not just speak with them, you slowly dissolve in their presence, losing all logic. The most terrifying trait of these beings is their eyes. It is not just a black iris. It is total, flat blackness with no light, no moisture, no veins. Occultists believe these are not eyes, but portals. Through them, an entity from another world looks at us. Looking into them feels like a physical weight pressing on your soul. One theory says they use their gaze for an energy grab. When you lock eyes, your mind's shield breaks. This explains why search victims feel frozen and cannot close the door. Their look is a hook. It catches your will and pulls it into a void where time and space die. Looking into these eyes is like falling into an endless well. Your mind is pulled inside, and you lose yourself. This is how they break a victim's will. A look that freezes the brain faster than any drug. Remember the old rule: never look directly into their eyes. Your ability to look away is your only hope. And now, it is time for your survival check. Imagine, late at night, you are alone. A rhythmic knock at the door, 60 beats per minute. You look outside and see a child, shaking from the cold, asking to come in. He says, "We are cold. Please, give us the key." His clothes are 40 years out of style. What do? You have 3 seconds to decide. Option 1. You open the door out of pity. Option 2. You call the police without opening. Option 3. You ignore them and stay silent. Vote in the poll now, or write your answer in the comments. There is only one correct answer. Those who let them in never spoke again. Your choice defines your fate. If you chose the first or second option, you already lost. The only right choice is to ignore them fully. Do not speak. Do not look. Any answer, even a no, is a form of contact they use to control you. Silence is your only shield. Once you acknowledge them, you take a step into the abyss. Your silence is your armor in a world where words are spells. The world is full of things we cannot explain. The black-eyed children are just one page of our Apocryphal Bestiary. Be careful with whom you open your door to. Remember, evil always asks for permission. If this video gave you a chill, then you are still alive. Like, subscribe, and share your story in the comments below. We read them all. Next time, we explore the entity that hides in your mirrors, waiting for its moment. Do not miss our chronicles. Know your enemy, and remember, never say yes to a strange voice in the dark. Stay in the light while you can. I am the keeper of Apocrypha. Darkness is coming, but we are its chronicles. We see the hidden truth. Watch our playlist of other beings to prepare for the threshold. Share this with those who trust to Izali. Your support keeps us searching for truth in history's darkest corners. Until next time, stay safe while you can. End of transmission. The chronicles continue as long as the last candle burns. In the suffocating silence of primeval forests, where monolithic oaks choke the pale moonlight, an ancient dread is birthed. It does not herald its approach with the roar of a predator, nor with the sharp snapping of branches. Instead, it glides forward, a cold, clinging vapor rising from stagnant mires. Modern internet lore has christened them the Pale Crawlers, yet this contemporary moniker is but a modern shroud draped over an anomaly elder than the very soil of the earth. Recent accounts flooding the codex of digital forums converge upon a singular, horrifying truth. The crawler does not instantly seek to rend physical flesh. Its most malicious trait is its absolute, unturning gaze. It is the entity that only watches. Picture yourself within the warmth of an isolated cabin as torrential rain batters the glass. Suddenly, an atavistic register triggers along your spine. The cellular alarm of your ancestors screaming that your sanctum has been breached. Turning toward the window, framing the absolute dark beneath an old apple tree, you'll behold it. A towering, emaciated silhouette of raw, chalk, white, pallor. Its limbs are absurdly elongated, long-boned fingers grazing the damp soil. It does not shatter the glass. It does not scrape the sill. It merely stands, anchoring its empty, cavernous eyes upon your very soul. The terror that seizes your body is a perilous in liquid weight and existential, absolute. This is not standard predatory behavior. It is an energetic harvesting. The abomination does not hunger for your red blood or sinew. It feeds upon the chemical distillation of your terror. In the absolute quiet, save for the violent hammering of your own pulse, a horrifying revelation takes root. Your fright is its sustenance. The longer you exchange visual lock across the fragile glass boundary, the more defined, heavy, and immediate the pale entity becomes. You're ensnared in a closed circuit of evolutionary nightmare, where each convulsing breath you draw pulls the white shadow one step closer to material realization. It is a silent war of human consciousness against a primordial void, and if panic is permitted to dictate your actions, the ancient shadow will claim your mind before it ever touches your throat. The secondary truth of the crawler forces us into the macabre disciplines of paleobiology and the chilling chasm of the uncanny valley. Those who survive the proximity of the abomination recall a singular, disturbing signature. Its locomotion is utterly bereft of natural animal grace, yet deeply alien to human movement. It represents an unstable biomechanical heresy, or what ancient grimoires defined as atavistic biomechanics. Imagine a physique whose joints operate in direct defiance of earthly nature. The elbows of the crawler hyperextend, both inward and outward with equal fluidity. Its kneecaps appear to float freely across multiple planes of articulation. Witnesses describe its sprint as that of a human attempting to mimic an arachnid, performing the action with hideous, disjointed, structural calculations. The sound it generates is unmistakable. A dry, splintering crackle, like ancient pines snapping under immense weight. This is not the debris of the forest floor yielding beneath its tread. This is the wet, hollow shifting of its own skeletal framework, popping and grinding within their sockets to instantly adapt to the terrain. Physically, their pale torsos seem completely devoid of recognizable muscle mass beneath the slick, hyper-translucent, white skin barren. Of any hair or pigmentation lies a grotesque architecture of bone. Every spinal vertebra protrudes like a jagged ivory wedge. Their rib cages flutter asynchronously to the rhythm of their silent, sporadic respiration. Scholars hypothesize that these entities possess a malleable physical morphology, an unstable bodily blueprint, invading our three-dimensional reality. They are forced to continuously reassemble their locomotor mechanics, shifting weight and lengthening their limbs up to twice their resting state to crawl down steep ravines. This is no mere beast of prey. To witness its approach is to watch physical anatomy rebel against the cosmic architecture of our world. Water is the cradle of life, so we are taught from infancy. Yet, for the pale crawlers, liquid is a bridge spanning the abyss between the subterranean kingdom and our cognitive reality. Spatial mapping of thousands of localized encounters reveals a terrifying geographical correlation. Over 70% of documented incursions materialize near aquatic margins, stagnant swamps, primeval riverbeds, abandoned irrigation channels, and most alarmingly, the colossal concrete drainage networks beneath interstate highways. Why is moisture so essential to their existence? The initial explanation is purely biological. The hairless, poreless, epidermal sheath of the crawler requires extreme continuous hydration. In dry atmospheres, their translucent skin cracks rapidly, weeping clear ichor. But there exists an infinitely colder strategic dimension. Water is the ultimate dampener of acoustics. The crawler utilizes rushing streams, the rhythmic drumming of rain, and the rustling of lake reeds as natural white noise. This hides the dry, splintering rattle of their shifting bone structures, allowing them to glide within breathing distance of deep forest campsites undetected. The massive subterranean drainage pipes beneath modern suburbs deserve singular focus. These hollow concrete veins stretching beneath our civilization serve as high-speed corridors. They crawl in the pitch black directly underneath our feet, while we sit in gridlock traffic. Their impossibly elongated fingers grip the rusty iron of storm drains along desolate roads. You might assume your headlights simply caught a discarded white plastic bag tangled in the roadside culvert. Look closer. If that shroud slowly retreats against the flow of the current, dragging itself into the lightless throat of the pipe, you have looked into the domain of the crawler. Do not pause your vehicle near forest streams when the twilight settles. The water does not sleep. Caution. We have arrived at the absolute vortex of our investigation. Let us designate this as the threshold of survival, the survival check. Suppose all warnings of the Apocryphal Bestiary were cast aside. You stand stranded, alone, within the midnight woodlands, by a black riverbank. The air is heavy with the scent of ozone and rotting reeds. Suddenly, out of the impenetrable thicket, a single, impossibly elongated, chalky appendage emerges. It does not wind up to strike. Instead, with agonizing, glacial deliberation, the 3-meter skeletal fingertips of the crawler descend onto the earth, anchoring themselves directly upon your shadow. Your vocal cords freeze. Existential terror commands you to run, yet intellect must govern. 3 routes unfold. First, take a sudden step forward, turning to confront the entity, locking your breath to assert dominance. Second, remain absolutely paralyzed, severing your internal will from your physical vessel, mentally relinquishing ownership of your body. Third, bolt with desperate velocity toward the river water, betting that the monster avoids making violent, echoing splashes. Which path preserves your heartbeat? Mark your selection. It dictates whether you hear the culmination of this archive, or if your name becomes another digit in the ledger of the vanished. The nature of the crawler is such that it does not register physical space as humans do. It tracks the light of human life. When its white hand intercepts your shadow, a direct link is forged. Run or fight, and you validate its claim. The resolution awaits at the absolute end. But answer now. Is your mind steel, or have you already succumbed? Deep within the dust-covered archives of Wisconsin, dated 1986, lies an official sheriff's report penned by Thomas Clay, marked internal use only. It documents an anomaly upon the Miller homestead, isolated near the Black Forest. For 3 agonizing weeks, their cattle had refused to enter the enclosures, letting loose low, unnatural bellows of pure distress. Upon checking the perimeter, Clay made a discovery that shattered his sanity. Every drainage canal flanking the pasture had been scrubbed clean of mud with surgical absolute precision. If dragged over by tons of smooth, wet white flesh, the patriarch, Eli Miller, swore under oath he beheld a pale shape crouched upon the peak of his high barn roof for 3 consecutive nights. It sought no entry. It simply sat on high, dangling its impossibly extended legs over the timber door, fastening its gaze on the animals trembling below. It had no visage, Clay noted, quoting the farmer. Only clean chalk, hide emitting a faint pearlescence under the stars, with 2 hollow holes. It swayed its long limbs to match the rhythm of the wind, mimicking the branches. When Clay approached with a spotlight, the creature did not flee in panic. It began descending the sheer vertical wood wall headfirst, dislocating its skeletal joints with a sharp, repeating crackle like thick river ice breaking underfoot. Clay fired his weapon 3 times. The rounds impacted the white mast with a sickening wet thud, yet the crawler did not slow. It slid into the lightless throat of the drainage canal without spilling a single drop of blood, leaving only the heavy stench of swamp gas and black moss. Sheriff Clay resigned his star 1 week later. Until his death, he never walked near running water. It stands as a terrifying proof that the crawler is no modern digital myth, but an ancient neighbor that was always there. In our digital epic of high technology, we seek comfort in the belief that monsters are only spawned upon smartphone glass. Anthropologists claim the pale crawler is a classic manifestation of a digital tulpa, a collective mental construct forged by millions of Reddit users, exchanging folklore, manifesting into a physical plane through sheer shared anxiety. We shape our executioners from fiber optic cable, yet is this the absolute reality? If we excavate the deeper layers of human antiquities, we uncover striking parallels. The archives of the Algonquin tribes speak of the faceless spirits of the Maya, spectral shapes with chalk-white hide that move to the rattle of dry-breaking boughs. They stalked travelers near fast-flowing creeks, harvesting their shadows to bleed away their human vitality. Furthermore, in the ancient Slavic mythos, swamp dwellers were often rendered as impossibly emaciated, pale ghouls inhabiting the marsh, luring victims with the deceptive, soft splash of water. The modern web did not spark the existence of these crawlers. It merely equipped them with a global grid for information vectoring. The internet is the perfect conduit for this ancient contagion of terror. By sharing accounts of these pale shadows across the dark web, we are actively tracing new paths for them to advance. Every reading of this bestiary, every video rendered each, is a splinter of psychic energy the entity absorbs. They do not merely stand sentinel in physical forests. They have learned to stand sentinel behind the glass screen. As you darken your device tonight, look at the screen. That cold, black, reflective gloss is also a form of dark, standing water, and on its reverse side, a pale, bone-thin silhouette may already be waiting to stare back. And now, we unveil the resolution of the survival check. If the pale, multi-jointed fingers of the crawler have locked onto your shadow, the only correct path to deliverance is the second path. You must freeze, seal your eyes, and detach your human mind from your vessel. The crawler harvests your active resistance, your burning will. When you nullify your presence, slides back to the swamp. Any attempt to struggle or flee toward the water leads to an instantaneous fracture of sanity. The river currents would but seal your demise, for they are the sovereign architects of the aquatic threshold. Today, we have drawn back the heavy veil sheltering the crawlers. But understand this, the Apocryphal Bestiary is a tome that remains forever agape. By closing this archive, you leave the doorway to the deep woods slightly unlatched. The next time you walk past a massive roadside drainage outlet, or look into the dark trees lining a forest river, lock your senses on the acoustic wind. If beneath the murmur of water you capture the unmistakable dry rattle of breaking bone, do not flee. Recall the ritual. Inscribe your survival selection in the comments below. Your digital ledger may keep another wanderer alive when the white-boned fingers intercept their shadow. Scribe your signature of subscription to the Apocryphal Bestiary. We preserve these hidden truths so that you may greet the rising sun. Look closely into the dark. The pale crawlers are already watching. Have you ever wondered why almost every state in America has its own legend about a Goatman? From the cursed hills of Maryland to the dark swamps of Louisiana. But all these scary stories and whispers by night fires share one exact point on the map. They always lead to old, forgotten bridges. Why bridges? In ancient beliefs, a bridge is not just in a structure of iron and concrete. It is a liminal space, a gray zone, a border, a place that is neither the beginning nor the end of the road. It is a no man's land, hanging between the past and the future, land in the void, life and death. It is here, in these strange spots, that reality becomes thin. The walls of our world fall apart like rotten threads. Ancient forces, waiting for centuries in the dark, find cracks to enter our world. Cold fog, a quiet river, and deep silence. These things work like a trap around any lonely traveler. We will study how the steel frames of old bridges work like a giant antenna. These steel beams create a massive electromagnetic circuit, and the slow river below collects and holds spirit energy, drawing the darkest things from the void. You will learn why these beasts break through only during the witching hour, at exactly 3 a.m. Look into the darkness ahead of you. The steel beams of the bridge are creaking under a heavy, invisible weight. A lonely figure is already waiting for your first fatal step into the night. Every scary legend is fed with blood. Behind the tales of monsters escaped from secret labs, there is always a real story of human cruelty. Let us travel back to the early 1930s. Denton County, Texas. Near the old wooden bridge called Old Alton lived Oscar Washburn. Oscar was a hardworking independent black farmer who successfully raised rare breeds of goats. He was an honest man, respected by local workers. His farm was thriving. His brand, a silhouette of a goat head, stood for honesty and quality, but his success only brought blind hatred from the local page of the Ku Klux Klan. On a hot, silent night in August 1938, orange flames of fire torches lit the forest. A mad mob in white hoods broke into the farmhouse. They killed all of Oscar's animals with brutal force. They beat Oscar, tied his hands with heavy iron chains, and dragged him to the metal railings of Old Alton Bridge. They put a thick rope around his neck. Oscar did not beg for his life. He only stared in silence into the angry eyes of his killers. Then they threw him over the side. But what happened next left the mob in absolute terror. When they looked down with their torches, the rope was swinging empty. Oscar Washburn had vanished into the black waters. There was no splash and no waves on the water. The running men dropped their torches in fear and fled into the dark Texas forest. In that very second, a terrible curse was born. The pain of the dying man fused with the agony of his butchered animals. The bridge absorbed this rage, turning into a giant stone tomb. Oscar Washburn did not die. He returned in a new form, a body made of old chains, goat rage, and an endless hunger for revenge. Anyone who steps onto the Old Alton Bridge with evil in their heart will feel the cold grip of the Goatman around their neck. The Goatman from old documents is not like the simple satyrs from children's fairy tales. It is an ugly, physically wrong, unnatural, anatomical nightmare. Its biology breaks natural laws, replacing them with astral decay. Most survivors remember that the first sign of the beast is not its scary silhouette in the fog. It is a sound, a special, frightening, rhythmic, metallic sound of hooves stamping directly on the frame of cars. The anatomical structure of the creature shows signs of deep necrosis and a liminal fusion of living tissues and dead metal. Its claws scrape the roofs of cars with the sound of rusted iron. Attention! The curtain falls. We move to the critical point of our investigation. It is time to test your own chances of survival. Imagine a real scenario described multiple times in Texas police reports. A dark, starless night. You are driving across the Old Alton Bridge. Suddenly, the dashboard clock freezes at exactly 3 o'clock, blinking with a cold blue light. Your car's entire electrical system dies instantly. The engine shuts down. The headlights turn off, leaving you in absolute, thick darkness. Your phone screen goes black, having instantly discharged. You hear a chilling, agonizing sound, a baby crying coming as if from under your back seat. Then, a loud clank on the roof. Rhythmic steps of split hooves start to walk on the metal body of your car. A tall, jagged shadow with giant twisted horns descends onto your hood. A cold skeletal hand touches your windshield, leaving a freezing trace. You have 3 seconds to make a choice, or you die. Option A. Turn on high beams, slam the horn, and try to start the engine. Option B. Lock the doors manually. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and squeeze your steel keys in your hand. Option C. Leap out of the car and run into the swampy forest. If you chose option B, you survived. The cold iron in your hand acts as a grounding block against the creature's field. Keep your eyes closed until 3:33 a.m. Whenever you cross an old, lonely river bridge in the dead of night, look closely through the heavy mist. Listen to the wind. Bridges are not built by humans just to connect to shores for regular travel. In ancient times, bridges of stone and iron were built as spiritual seals. They are like heavy locks on the earth, meant to hold deep underwater, beneath millions of tons of heavy rock and iron. Things that sleep at the bottom of these ancient rivers. Things that must never see the light of day. Our chronicle of the Goatman of Old Olton has come to an end. This dusty page is turned. But remember, thousands of other nightmares are still waiting in the dark to step into your dreams. Would you dare to turn off your headlights on your next night river crossing? Write your stories in the comments. Support our channel with your loyalty. Like this video, subscribe, and hit the old bronze bell to make sure you do not miss our next chapters. Keep your soul safe in this endless dark, and always keep your iron cold. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, where cold fog hangs over old trees, there is a dark rule. It is older than the first towns of America. Hunters and rangers pass this warning down to their children. If you see a deer in the dark woods, and your mind whispers, something is wrong with this animal, do not look closer. Turn around and walk away, silent. Do not look back. This is not just normal fear. This is a meeting with the Nadir, an ancient ghost of the hills, now a digital nightmare. Modern folklore is mixed with real horror of the deep forest. What if a real monster is hiding in the shadow of the oldest mountains on Earth? In these wild lands, people disappear too often. The locals believe the forest does not forgive curiosity. The Nadir is a perfect trap. It looks like a normal animal, but its goal is simple: to make you stop, to freeze you with its strange look for a few seconds, while it walks close enough to strike. When you first see this creature, your mind freezes. It looks like a deer, but every detail is wrong. Its skin is stretched too tight over its bones, like a metal frame underneath. Its neck bends at impossible angles with a wet, heavy, cracking sound. Its legs are too thin and too long. Its knees bend backward with ease, like a giant insect. There is no grace in its movement. It moves in sudden, mechanical jerks, like a broken wooden puppet pulled by invisible strings. People who study these stories agree on one thing: the Nadir is a biological nightmare. It looks like it was stitched together by someone who had never seen a real deer, but only heard about it. Its skin sits like a bad costume, ready to rip open and show what is hiding inside. But the deepest terror hits you when the creature turns its head. A normal forest deer looks sideways with soft, scared eyes. The Nadir is different. Its eyes look straight forward, directly at you. It is a cold, human-like gaze of a predator ready to strike. Experienced hunters tell chilling stories. They aim their rifles at the animal, only to freeze in pure panic. Through the scope, instead of a deer's eye, they saw round human eyes, staring back at them with a smart, cold hunger. In that moment, you realize the truth. You are no longer the hunter, you are the prey. This gaze paralyzes your body. You cannot run. You cannot fight. The creature does not just look at you. It looks inside you, watching your heart beat faster as you drown in fear. Survivors describe the movement of the nadir as a broken, unnatural dance. When it decides to chase you, the deer disguise falls apart completely. Its legs move randomly, out of resamer. But the most terrifying part is the silence. Its hooves do not make a sound, only the quiet scraping of claws on dry leaves. During the chase, the nadir can do something that breaks a person's mind. It rises up on its hind legs and runs after you on 2 feet. Its knees are bent forward, and its front limbs hang limp like broken wooden sticks. Yet, it moves with impossible speed, gliding through the dark trees. Witnesses say the creature ignores the laws of gravity. Its body does not bounce up and down. Its head stays perfectly still while its bent legs move with unnatural speed. The cold air fills with the smell of decay, and you feel that you are chased by a dark forest demon, not an animal. Official science tries to calm us with easy answers. They point to CWD, a disease that turns a deer's brain into a sponge. Infected animals lose their fear, grow extremely thin, and waste away. But can a simple earthly sickness explain what survivors have witnessed? This disease destroys the nerves, but it cannot stretch bones, reverse knee joints, or make a deer run on 2 legs at highway speed. And most of all, science cannot explain the voices. Witnesses swear the nadir can call people into the deep woods, using the voices of their missing friends. Ancient legends of native tribes speak of skinwalkers and shapeshifters. They believed that in these old mountains sleep ancient forces that can bend reality. When the nadir calls your name from the black woods, it is not a sickness. It is an ancient trap made for your soul. The Appalachian Mountains are among the oldest on Earth. They remember the times before mammals even existed. These peaks still guard dark secrets that humans should never uncover. The nadir is a reminder that the borders of our safe, modern world are very thin. The next time you walk in the deep woods, listen to the sounds. If you hear a heavy rustling behind you, or if dry branches crack in a slow, unnatural rhythm of steps, do not turn on your flashlight. Do not look into the dark. Turn around and walk back. Remember the first rule of the woods: leave silently and do not look back. To keep yourself safe from forest nightmares, like this video and subscribe to our channel. Share your own stories in the comments below. Have you ever seen an animal that acted too strange? Take care of yourself. And remember, if your first thought says run, run. And so, the grimoire closes. We have traversed the bridges of the Goatman, gazed into the solid black eyes of the doorstep callers, and witnessed the predator gaze of the nadir. The world is far larger and infinitely darker than our waking minds care to admit. Thank you for wandering with us tonight. If these accounts brought you a curious sense of comfort, or perhaps a chilling wakefulness, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment with the creature that haunts you most, and share your own stories in the dark. Until our next scroll is unrolled, rest your eyes, blow out the candles, and try to sleep well. If you can.